Hello and welcome to another episode of Jazz y Más. I'm Viviám María López. This award-winning singer, songwriter, arranger, and powerhouse band leader has jolted thousands of people from her native Cuba to many stages around the world. Thanks to her music, singing style, and charisma on stage, she has been called by NPR a cross between Celia Cruz and Aretha Franklin, and was described as a pioneer of a new vanguard of women in Cuban jazz by The New Yorker. She has mixed her Afro-Cuban influences with jazz and other rhythms, and a new chapter in her life is just beginning as she embarks on new projects that has her mixing her Afro-Cuban music with a Puerto Rican plena. My guest today is Daymé Arocena. Welcome, Daymé.
Hello, muchas gracias. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Of course, me too. I'm so happy to see you again. And last time we saw each other, actually, we were sharing the stage here in Miami. And then I know you're living now in Puerto Rico. But as we know, this beautiful story of Daymé Arocena began in Cuba, right in Havana. Tell me more, how was your childhood growing up in beautiful Havana?
Well, my childhood was beautiful in so many aspects. Uh, of course, it was difficult in so many other aspects too. But I have to say that my family was a musical family. They were musicians. I didn't grow up in a musician's house. I grew up in a house where everything could become a musical instrument. Because I was born in the 90s, in 1992. So my uncles, my aunts, my cousins, all of them, they would play music all the time. Every single time we had any kind of power off or electricity, this type of situations in the 90s in Cuba. So because we wouldn't be able to play the radio or the TV, they will make music for me, and they will make music also for them. So they will use anything. They will play rumba in the on top of the furniture, anything. That's how I grew up. So it was a moment of a lot of adversities, but at the same time, I was able to see light at the end of the tunnel always, because they always had this smile and this way to bring happiness when things were difficult. So music was always an answer for me to feel better, to feel good, to feel safe. Even though I grew up in a house where we were 14 people, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, like in a really difficult and tough situation, I could say that my childhood was really, really happy.
Aww. In fact, your mom, I've heard you probably sang before even you knew how to speak, right? Because of the music that was flowing in your veins and the spirit in your house as well.
Yeah. And I believe, when you raise a child in a house where everybody's singing, so your child just starts singing too all the time. They didn't do this thinking that they were influencing me. That was just the way they lived life. And if you think about how we Black people are, actually, we are pretty musical, and we have changed the world through music. Music is a really important aspect of our heritage and our way to see life. Also, to connect with our spirituality and all of that, music has been playing a huge and important role in Black people's life, especially in this side of the world where my ancestors came as slaves. Music saved them and saved their energy in moments of adversity. So, I mean, I wasn't a slave when I was born. That happened many years ago.
Yeah.
But I believe it is in my blood. Just the fact that when you have a dark and difficult situation, you just sing, and you can see it in blues music, jazz music, rumba music. It's mainly Black music, and it's coming from adversities. So, um, I, I'm blaming this flavor on my ancestors.
No, and it frees you, right? It's the music that would free, through music is that we can become free, and it's a way of
Exactly.
expressing that as well, right? And that's so
Exactly.
important, and you always honor that very much in your beautiful music, in your compositions, in your performances, without a doubt. Now, you were only 10, you were accepted into the Conservatorio de Música Alejandro García Caturla, right? And then you began your studies there. So tell me more about the time in the conservatorio, and of course you graduated from the prestigious Conservatorio Amadeo Roldán as well.
Yeah. So the thing is that my parents, they noticed that music was a thing for me when I was so little. Like at the beginning, when I was like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, they would say, "Oh, she's just a kid that likes to sing." But they started noticing that I was obsessed with music, that I will come back from kindergarten and I will play. I wouldn't watch cartoon. I will play music.
Oh.
I will play from Selena Quintanilla to the Bee Gees or Whitney Houston. I will listen to any kind of music. I will come to my father. I will whisper him melodies. And sometimes he will say, "Oh, that's a melody of this singer," or "that this is a melody of this another singer." But my parents said that once I started singing songs for them, and they said, who is that music coming from? And I was like, "That's mine." So they, at certain point, they said, "Whoa, this girl really is
She
into
means
music.
business.
Yeah, let's take care of her and let's pay attention to this." So they took me into the conservatory to apply to study music. In Cuba, the system is different, the educational system, and if you want to become a musician, study music in a conservatory, you have to know it and you have to reach and try to get in the school before you are 10 years old. So that's the last chance you have to enter the school, because they have this Russian system where they believe kids in music have to be treated and trained as doing this kind of heavy sports, that you have to turn your body and prepare your body since you are really small
Yes.
for the instrument. So that's why you graduate as a professional when you are 19, and you get your bachelor's at 19. You don't get the bachelor's at 23, 24. You get it at 19 because you start at 10 years old.
Right.
So my parents took me to the school. Thanks God I got into the school, which is such a thing, especially coming from my background. It's not a secret for anybody that in Cuba, these spots to study in special schools are really limited. They will take only 20 kids per school. They will be really selective, and they will put on top kids that are coming from a different type of family, instead pick kids like me. Like if there is 20 spots, 15 spots are going to be for kids coming from
Right.
more accommodated families,
Yes.
and then they will give 4 or 5 spots to other kids. So my parents told me, you gotta fight hard, and you gotta be the best, because if you are not the best, they are not gonna give you the spot.
Not even the chance to that,
Be
right?
they are not gonna give you a chance. Once I got into the school, I was such a tough and serious student. I never gave me a space and opportunity to fail. I was so pushy and so focused. I knew that I could never get in trouble, but because I would be kicked out of the school at the minimum trouble, at the minimum problem. So probably now in my life as an adult and as a professional musician, I'm really tough and serious and focused. And people sometimes don't know where's that coming from, but probably because since I am 10 years old, I had to fight and be that way to get where I got.
It's helped you professionally nowadays, so it was good that you had that straight and strong, perfectionism, if you may, and you've continued it in your life now professionally. But So that's great, great learning. Now, we're going to have to take a break, but when we come back, Daymé is going to tell us of her beginnings in new countries and how that all came about. Stay tuned. Welcome back, and joining me today is singer-songwriter Daymé Arocena. Daymé, welcome back again to the show.
Yeah.
And I love having this beautiful journey through your beautiful career. And so let's talk a little bit about Los Primos Big Band. You were very young, you were only 15, and you were the only girl in that band.
Well, honestly, Los Primos, they changed my life, my entire musical perspective, the way I will listen and understand music. And telling the long story short, the big band was already there. They had their prestige and all of that. It was a school big band, but they would make gigs as professional and all of that. So when I started at the Conservatorio Amadeo Roldán, they knew that I could sing and they were looking for singers. So they asked me to join them. Honestly, what I wanted was to sing. I didn't care what type of music they would play. I was like, well, I'm new at the school and I am already getting a chance to sing. Mm-hmm. I'll sing any music. So they gave me the music sheets to learn. I got in my hands sheets like My Funny Valentine, Bye Bye Blackbird, Misty, any kind of jazz standards. But I didn't know it was jazz music. Like I will learn the music and I will start singing the music in the big band with them and all of that. But I didn't understand properly. They started suggesting me musicians and singers to listen to. They would say, okay, this is a jazz band. So you have to start getting educated into jazz music. They share with me music of Ella Fitzgerald, Nina Simone, Billie Holiday, Sarah Vaughan, younger people like Erika Badu, Esperanza Spalding, but at the same time, they educated me into Brazilian music, which I am a crazy, huge fan now. And they gave me music of Gal Costa, Elis Regina, Milton Nascimento, like Javan, Tom Jobim, Gilberto Gil. I got music. I got like infection. Like they gave me so much information to learn, to listen, to absorb, and at a certain point, I became a crazy jazz lover. I said, "This is the music that I want to sing and I want to perform." Yes. They made a huge impact in my life, and I will be always grateful for sharing and showing me that way and that word, because that opened up a different word for me. And I always wanted to be a singer-songwriter. As I said to you, since I was so young, I will create melodies. I will create my own songs. I don't remember myself without creating music, but since I started into jazz music, I changed the way I will write music. I will communicate my ideas. I will, how can I say, approach harmony, styles, and all of that. So thanks, Los Primos, for
for really opening up those horizons in you and really going deeper into your heart, because very close to you is jazz music, as we know. So I think that experience helped you, inspire you to create your band, your project, Alami.
I have to say that I was like the baby girl of Los Primos because I was the only woman, right? So they will, if they had a candy, just one candy, that was for me, right? So they will always treat me really good, but I always question myself, why am I the only woman? Why I don't see most women playing in bands, not just in jazz music, in bands in general. And I will have beautiful classmates that they will be beautiful performers, but they will never get called for a gig or something like that. They wouldn't even be considered to play at a band. So I said, when I graduate, I will create my own all female
Great.
jazz group.
Love it.
So I created Alami with my classmates.
Aw.
We had such a difficult time trying to get exposure, trying to get the approval, because this is a point in Cuba, not even because you study music, you are able to perform. You need a government authorization to play. And we applied for that authorization many times, and they didn't give us the authorization to perform. It's a control system that they have, and they make it really difficult for youngers to get that authorization. That way, when you finally get it, you are grateful, and you don't say anything about them because you don't want to lose that authorization. That's how it works. So in our case, come on, I was coming from a poor background. Nobody will know me. Like, and we all women, like, they made it hard for us, like hard, extremely hard. And we found certain ways to play for no money in specific places, because you can always perform and not get paid, and you get some kind of exposure.
Exposure and little by little
Yeah, and
connect.
that way we at certain point we met a person that her name is Jane Bonnet. She was really well known at the time
Correct.
in Canada
Yes.
as a jazz performer, and she decided to start making a project with us. So Alami was already there. She had a different project, all male project called The Spirit of Havana,
Right.
where she was the only woman. And when she saw us playing all female and all of that, she said, "Oh, this is a great chance. This is a great opportunity." And we blend into one project called Maqueque.
Right.
And what happened is that once we excel, once we got the chance to be playing some music in Canada and all of that, we immediately got nominated and won the Juno for the
Yes.
best jazz album of the
Correct.
year. Then we got nominated for the Grammy. And we were exactly the same girls that didn't have authorization to play in Cuba. So
Wow.
those are the things that happen in the island, sadly. But also, we had to get the recognition out of the country to being able just to perform in the island, which is a craziness.
Wow, wow, eso es una pena, ¿no? And in fact, talking about that, and I think we're gonna have to take a break, but when we come back, I wanna talk about when you left Cuba, and we want to continue exploring more with singer Daymé Arocena. Again, we're gonna hear when she left and where she currently is living now in the beautiful island of Puerto Rico, and what has that offered to Daymé's career. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Jazz y Más, and I'm so happy to have with me today singer-songwriter Daymé Arocena. Daymé, so now comes the time that you decide to leave Cuba. When and how did that happen?
Well, I have to say that I had the chance, the opportunity to travel a lot when I was living in Cuba, because I signed a contract with a record label called Brownswood Recordings.
Yes.
Yeah, in London, England. So it is led by a beautiful DJ called Giles Peterson, and they improved and they make me explode out of the world. So, but it was enough for me. I am someone that I express really clearly. I like to talk things the way I feel it, the way I think. And I started feeling the pressure of living in Cuba and being and having exposure and not being free enough to say what I wanted to say,
Mhm.
to express the way I wanted to express, also to grow the way I wanted to grow. So my husband and I decided to leave. Also because my husband he used to do photojournalism independently
Oh.
in Cuba, which is another topic and really
Ah.
complicated. So it was a difficult moment for us, and we decided to go. Now, we left Cuba, we moved to Canada, which is a country different in all aspects. And I needed the Caribbean. I needed
Yes.
this. I needed the food. I needed the happiness, the song, the blue sky. I needed that. We spent 3 years in Canada
Mhm.
before moving to Puerto Rico,
Yes.
and honestly, it was the best thing I have done in my life. Coming here to this beautiful island is like a treasure island for me. I love it so much. And the treasures of this island are basically culture, music, food, the energy of the people. They are so warm, so welcoming.
Yes.
I feel like home. I feel like back in Cuba, but
Yes.
in better conditions. So that's why I wrote a song for Puerto Rico, because Puerto
Mhm.
Rico has become my second home. Like I feel it as a proper home. Sometimes you live in a country that you have to live there, but you don't feel it like home. But Puerto
Correct.
Rico is home for me, especially because we share Afro culture too. We share
Yes.
rhythms. We share uh, music styles. We
Mhm.
share um, the way we dance, the way we talk. I am so glad to be here, and that's why I wrote a plena Puerto Rican authentic genre
Uh-huh.
called Para mover los pies, which is like explaining to the Puerto Ricans
Mhm.
who I am, why I am here, and why I am so grateful with them for welcoming us
Yes.
in the island.
Now, for you to combine, like you said, the plena, authentic Puerto Rican rhythms with your Afro-Cuban roots and sounds as well, seems like a natural synergy, like a perfect connection, right?
Yeah, it wasn't difficult at all. It's a plena that has a little bit of timba cubana,
Uh-huh.
which those genres, they just blend pretty
They,
easily, because it's like they are all coming from the same roots.
yes,
So
definitely.
I believe it's a great track to dance, but also to think, to listen, to
The
understand
message, the
the
message.
situation of both islands.
Yes, the
Yeah.
message is excellent. And also talking about, I know that you've been in your different albums. 2015 was that first one, and how you continue incorporating and different genres within, you kind of like maybe finding yourself and more, right? Your authenticity.
Yeah. For example, my first album, Nueva Era, was more focused on world music, like more experimental. I did it in London with British musicians mainly. So it has a different flavor. Then I moved back to Cuba to record, and I did Cubafonia in
Mm-hmm.
2017, which is my biggest album until
Exactly.
today,
Right.
which is an album that is focused on Cuban genres and the diversity of Cuban genres. So, because sometimes I started traveling and people will ask me, cha 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 is a Mexican genre, and I will be like, whoa, like, yeah, because there is this misunderstandings and all of that. So I decided to make an album that was really Cuban,
Yes.
but contemporary Cuban.
Mm-hmm.
So that's Cubafonia, where
Mm-hmm.
my biggest track, La Rumba Me Llamo Yo,
Oh,
is
yes.
an album. Then I did an experimental jazzy album called Sonocardiogram,
Mm-hmm.
which is an album, as I said before, jazz, trio, experimental. I wanted to show that side of Daime too, because
Uh-huh.
people will always see me also as this folkloric Latina black women playing music to make you dance, which I love. But I really wanted to show that side of mine more sophisticated. Let's
Yes.
say when we talk about music and jazz complexities, and then now I'm doing a totally different project. Each album of mine is different.
That's why I
So
love it.
yeah, this is a totally different project. I came to Puerto Rico to record with my favorite uh, of all times, I could say, producer
Yes.
in America.
Mhm.
I never imagined I could make an album with him. I always saw him far away from me. Like I it was like, whoa, big for me. And I was so impressed when we connected and he knew my music from before. He invited me to come to Puerto Rico and discover what was happening here. He became like my brother. And the name of this person is Eduardo
Cabra.
Cabra, well known as Visitante Calle 13, which was the brain behind all the music production of Calle 13, the big band of Latin America. And I wanted to make an album which is more pop music because there's a pop side of Daime that I
Yes.
have been hiding for a while. That Daime that used to jump and dance and listen to Selena Quintanilla and Whitney Houston was hidden for so long, because now I understand that it was because there was a lot of racism in my brain and in the system of Latin American pop music. You can name one person which is a pop star, black as I am, in the Latin market, in the pop Latin market. You will see a lot of black stars in hip hop music in the United States or just pop music when it's Anglo, but when it is Latino, it's like erasing black people from the mainstream industry. So I never identified myself in that kind of world. So every single song I wrote that was like pop music, I will put it aside. I will never show it to anybody. But now I believe it's the right time to fight for that spot. It's time to say what's happening, to expose what's happening, and say, "Hey, look, there is enough music and crowd and everything for everybody. Give us some space
As well.
because rhythms like I don't know merengues, many genres that are in the mainstream. Reggaeton, for example, is pretty black. It's black music,
Yes.
and you don't see black people in reggaeton, which is really weird. So I came to Puerto Rico
With a
and learning
mission.
about the industry a lot. And in the meantime, I'm swimming and I'm eating alcapurrias, but I
Oh,
am learning
mofonguito,
a
qué
lot.
rico.
I'm learning a lot about the industry, and I'm coming with a pop, more mainstream album.
Wow. So we're looking forward. Congratulations for this wonderful move that I think is the right time in the right place. And we're certainly looking forward to continue to enjoy it, to watch your performances. And of course, when the album comes out, many, many blessings, because I know it's going to be an amazing success, like everything that Daymé Arocena does. So un abrazo muy grande. And
Abrazo.
gracias, Daymé. Thank you very, very much again for spending the time with us here today. And to you,
My
friends,
pleasure.
this is all for this edition of Jazz y Más. But do remember that you can watch this and all other interviews in our webpage, youtube.com/@MDC-TV, or you can simply scan the QR code on the screen. Until next time, I'm Viviám María López. And again, thank you for watching.
Tráiganse pa'l bembé, barriles para la bomba y para mover los pies. Yo soy de una isla hermana, tierra de arena y sal. Mi canto es como